Welcome back to another BroShoot episode. Something we've been doing for a while. Um, I'm just kidding. This is the first episode of BroShoot. Wells and I, my brother, we started a podcast 2-3 years ago called BroShoot Pictures. Made it to about 10 episodes, and everything went haywire after that. Got rid of my, long story short, just got rid of it. But we wanted to start. We wanted to start another podcast called BroShoot because we're both in the film industry somewhat. I started a production company, and I do just mainly video work, commercial. I write a lot, write scripts, and Wells is my editor. So we just thought, hey, this is something we're really passionate about, film, and we kind of wanted to have like a more laxed, not as professional podcast talking about film. We're not film critics. We're not professionals, but we're just two dudes that enjoy watching film, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. So this is Wells. He lives in Raleigh now. I live. That's why we're kind of doing this video podcast not streaming it, but this format where we're not together. I live in Auburn, Alabama, and so this is our setup. It looks pretty clean. Pretty clean. Wells, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, you already know my name, but I am Holt's brother. I started kind of getting into the video production side of things probably like 3 years ago, but I really hammered down my as far my skill set probably 2 years ago now, and me and Holt have been working together. I worked for him in kind of quotation marks like 3 years ago, but I wasn't necessarily a good employee yet. So I honed my craft, and about 2 years later, I joined up with Holt again. So we're back.
Yeah, back and better than ever, baby. I mean, when I first hired him on, it was just I didn't know what the hell I was doing either. Like I wasn't good at what I was doing. I was filming a lot of weddings. I had like 5 people on staff, 2 interns, Wells like a part-time employee, and then 2 other full-time employees. It was just
It was
I didn't know
fun.
what I was doing. It was fun. We had a good time. I learned a lot, but I was not good enough at um at being a cinematographer, being an editor, being a boss. Like I just didn't know what I was doing, so I kind of got rid of that whole operation, honed in my craft for about 2 or 3 years, moved to Atlanta, and now I'm back. But that's neither here nor there. This is mainly just talking about film and what we love and why we love it. And today we kind of wanted to talk about. We didn't kind of want to talk about. We wanted to talk about the film that got us. I don't want to speak on Wells' behalf, but it got me into really why I liked film and why I think at the time when these movies came out, I had no idea like the impact it had on me. But now I kind of do, and I always go back to this trilogy, which is the best trilogy of all time. And I don't want to give away too much. Wells, what do you have to say about this trilogy?
Well, they're my favorite movies of all time. So they're definitely kind of like the first movies I remember watching when I was young. That I was like, the scope and everything of it was just so massive. I couldn't there's nothing else like it. And I remember just being fascinated with this before I was fascinated with like any other kind of film. Or that's definitely my favorite set of movies in a
Yeah,
series.
I think it was the first films that I remember talking about with people. Like any other movies I watched, I was like, oh, that was fun, but I didn't discuss the characters, the themes. I mean, I was still young at the time. I didn't really understand what all that meant, but I mean, the story was just so fascinating to me. And if you don't know what we're talking about by now, talking about Lord of the Rings, greatest movies of all time, greatest trilogy of all time. There's really no debate. That's an objective statement. Um, I don't know anybody that could argue otherwise. I mean, you can argue The Dark Knight, maybe. Um, we love Christopher Nolan too, but Tolkien was just I mean, he's still a trailblazer because people just copy everything he has done. He
You
was
can't
just
really copy it.
yeah.
Honestly.
They tried to. They tried to.
There's no fantasy movies. Nothing can ever live up to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Peter Jackson, man, he really. Okay, so we'll get into talking about the film, but every episode we want to do a little game show at the beginning, and either Wells and I are gonna ask each other about 4 questions, see if we can't get the trilogy or not the trilogy, the
Trivia.
trivia. That's the word, trilogy. Um, see if we can get the trivia right. I'd be embarrassed if I can't get a lot of these right, but I don't know what kind of questions he came up with. So here we go. He's going to ask me these questions. Next episode, I'm going to ask him questions.
All right. So these questions are a mix. They're pretty. If you don't get most of these right, you aren't a fan. Like you probably aren't truly as interested in Lord of the Rings as you say you are. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
So I'm trying to suss out if you are kind of a liar and
I'm a fraud.
a fraud, or are you actually a Lord of the Rings fan? All right. Question number 1. And these aren't going easiest to hardest, really. I mean, they kind of are, but it's not really in any order. So here we go. Question number 1. How many rings did Sauron give the Dwarf Lords?
7.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm actually not very good at those. Like, I always forget the amount of rings given, but it's 9,
Okay.
7, and 3, right? And then 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait. Yes, I think, yeah. How many did he give the Elf Lords?
3.
3. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. All right. Question number 2 is, what is the name of the Hobbit family who Bilbo and Frodo avoid at Bilbo's birthday party?
That's the Sackville Baggins, is right? Or is it?
Your answer is correct. That's 2 out of 4. So far, you have a score of 50.
I'm scared.
On to the next question. And this one might stump you. So here we go.
We'll see.
How old is Gandalf supposed to be during the trilogy?
Oh, man. Okay.
This one's hard, and if you don't get this one, it's fine. Like it's a not an easy
How
one.
old is he, or how old is he supposed to be? Because I know Gandalf.
All right. So to be honest, like with this one, I did some research. You do kind of have to estimate because it's not.
He's as old as Middle, like almost not. He's not older than Middle Earth. That's Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil's older than him, than Gandalf. But you wouldn't know Tom Bombadil unless you read the books. He's over 1,000 years old, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like by a lot.
Marginal.
No, not marginal.
No, like so. I was gonna say 3,000 years old.
That's your answer?
Yeah.
3,000 years old is not correct.
Dude,
Gandalf is,
come on,
through estimation and pretty decent guesswork and pretty accurate, is 24,000 years old.
Oh man, I thought he was just alive. I guess he's alive until his job's done, his work is done.
Yeah, he says, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so then his work was done, so he sailed off into Undying Lands. Okay.
And
okay, I didn't know that one.
And honestly, that could be there could be different answers to that one, but from what I read, it was 24,000 years old. So, anyways, that's 2 out of. You're still at 2 out of 4.
All right, I got to get 75%. I got to get 75%.
You can at least get 75%. All right. This is my favorite. This is my favorite one of them all. So the last question is, which member of the Fellowship kills the most orcs throughout the films? Sorry, I put film, not films, but films.
I mean, I know in the books which one probably did. Is this
okay? This is on-screen kills.
That's got to be Legolas.
That is correct. You got
Okay.
75% of them right. That's good. 3 out of 4 is really good.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Gandalf one is kind of a shitty question.
I
but
mean, no. I mean, I don't think I would ever got. I don't think I've ever even read that before. So there's just no way I would have gotten that one. But it
yeah,
is what it
that
is.
people like kind of. I feel like you have to kind of read the books to know that one, and you have. So
Yeah. There's no excuse there. There's no excuse. I should have known that one. Sorry, guys. I let my family down. I let everybody down.
you let me down.
Well, I'm sorry I keep looking to the left because like my whole setup, I got a freaking key light here, like a little fill light here, some practicals behind me. It looks good. I ain't gonna lie.
It does look good.
GH5 in front of me. Then I have the computer off to my left because it's just the way my desk is set up. Just doesn't really make sense. But Wells has got a lot more simple setup.
Yeah, I have everything streamlined.
Yeah, he's when we started getting this set up. I just sound like such a boomer trying to sell this up. I literally have no idea when it comes to streaming and doing things like this. I don't really get it, but we got a pretty good setup now.
That's
By the way,
fine. I mean,
I'm gonna get a mic arm, whatever it's called. That way, I'm not freaking holding this. But anyway, so let's get back into the film. So kind of what we also want to do is just set up this film. We want to break it down, but in more so like a layman's terms, like just two bros talking about a film. But we did want to talk about. I think the budget for this film was around 280 million, which is
these films or the Fellowship. The 3
okay. You
films.
want to get into it? No, I mean, if you want to get into it, I think it was just meant to be one film at first. And then what Peter Jackson did was he just went ahead and filmed all three back to back to back without telling
Do you know that for sure?
anybody.
I don't think that's true.
I'm pretty sure, dude.
I would
Look it up.
research that. You want to look it up right now?
Yeah, look it up.
Okay. So what should I?
So then I'll let as he looks this up. So I'm pretty sure that's true. But the box office hit almost 900 million, which is crazy. You don't make all the money. You really don't make much money in box office, even if they are making 900 million. All the money's coming from like back end stuff. So, it's nuts. And the sets, the scale of these sets were just insane. I think Lord of the Rings had, and I still think, and Wells, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the most extras in a film of all time when they were getting all the Uruk-hai. These are all New Zealand people because they filmed most of it in New Zealand. These are all just like New Zealanders dressed up. I think I want to say had well over 300 extras, which is nuts. It's nuts.
I think it's been surpassed. But I don't know by what. But I could be wrong.
Well, these are filmed. Yeah, these are filmed in like early 2000s. So I think 99 to what 2002. Maybe
the whole process was from 97 to 2004.
Oh, really?
Like that. I think that includes like
because
after the movies and stuff. But that's pretty ridiculous. So I just read that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think 2001 Fellowship was released, 2002 Two Towers, and then 2003 Return of the King, which Return of the King is my favorite by far.
Okay.
Not by far, but it's my favorite. What?
So here's what I found on what you said, and can you restate what you said earlier about?
So I don't want to. Okay, so at first he had the budget for it, and he didn't really tell anybody that he was filming all three at once. He was supposed to just film one at a time. He ended up just kind of knocking them all out at once without telling the investors. Or who was the production company?
Okay, so let's see. All right, I'm just gonna read out what I have highlighted here. Lord of the Rings was developed as 2 films, but
Oh,
Weinstein later changed his mind and wanted to combine 3 books into 1 film. Peter Jackson, and Walsh resisted and were given 3 weeks to find a new film company.
mm.
Um, in 1998, Variety reported, this is Variety, by the way, Jackson pitched 2 Lord of the Rings films to New Line Films. Chairman Bob Shea was impressed and said, "Let's do 3." Shea also greenlit the idea of filming the 3 simultaneously. So you're wrong.
No,
But
I was right. It sounds better how I said it.
oh yeah, that's badass. Of course it sounds better. But no, it was I guess what company is this? I can't tell.
New Line Cinema.
Yeah. Does New
Yeah.
Line? Yeah, it is New Line Cinema. Okay,
Well,
yeah.
you just read it.
New Line
But
Films.
yo, bro. Anyways, let's talk about this. Is something I didn't have like on my mind to talk about. Let's talk about how badass PlayStation 2 Lord of the Rings game was at the time. I mean, because we were so big into Lord of the Rings, we started playing. What was it? There's two Lord of the Rings games. One was
So I'm so happy you brought this up. So they weren't as good as you remember, but
well. I mean, I also did. I
we
don't.
thought they were so sick. All right, these Lord of the Rings games. I'm trying to think. I mean, I think all they did for these games were like they literally just you played through the story, but like as the different characters. I remember the character selection screen. How
That
like
was so
you were
sick.
in like the mist, and then
Gandalf was so badass.
I'll put it on screen for this. But somehow, but yeah. So you picked a character and you went in and played through the different scenes in the movies, but I don't know if you ever played this Lord of the Rings game, but do you remember the Battlefront games?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so do you remember how sweet those were? The Star Wars
Those are
Battlefront,
sick,
not the
dude.
new ones, the old ones
Yeah.
from
No, the old
2000.
ones. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they made Lord of the Rings Conquest, which was a Lord of the Rings version of Battlefront, and I don't think you ever played it. I don't think you're into video games at this time, but this was for Xbox 360, and they made a Battlefront version. So like you fought in front of Minas Tirith, like huge battles, like 200 people. Dude, it was so sick. I thought it was the sickest thing ever. But yeah,
Yeah.
those
There's
games are
something
awesome.
about. Well, we would just watch the movies all the time, and then we had the games. So it was like, oh, we're actually in this world that they built. They did a pretty good
Yeah,
job of like. I mean, if I went back and played it, it'd be pretty bad. But I do remember it being super fun to actually feel like. And there was different. They built different sets on the game that I didn't experience in the movie, so I thought was super cool.
right. And when you all right, so when you go into and you're gonna have to. I forget things about. I've watched Lord of the Rings a million times, and I forget names of stuff. So I use
Yeah.
Holt kind of to guide me. But I'm really bad at retention. But when they go into the cave to not
Mines of
the Mines
Moria.
of Moria, not that one. They go into to get the
Oh,
ghosts.
the dem. Yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
You
Everybody
gotta
knows what
get
you're talking about.
okay. So they go in there, but in the game in the
The
movie
king
they
under the mountain.
yeah.
Yeah,
So in the movie they skip. They go right to basically like the center, and like the ghost city pops up, and then what say you? Always
what
holding that.
say you?
All
Yeah, I
right.
still say that. I still
So
say.
yeah. So but in the game you fight through the whole cave system
Yeah,
to like get to that part, and then you
yeah.
fight the boss, and the boss is
Little minions. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, and the extended cut too. You see more of it, which I'm kind of glad. And the regular version of the movie, the film, they kind of cut all that out because it was very. They cut out a lot of the like.
I don't think they cut anything out. I just don't think it existed. Like they just didn't
No,
like
no, and they did cut out a lot in the
it,
extended cut.
it in the extended cut. Did they go like through the whole?
No, they didn't do all that, but they showed a little
Okay,
bit more of
okay,
like them walking through and stuff. But anyways, all right. So this is how obsessed I was with Lord of the Rings when it first came out. Um, I think I was like third grade. I saved up $50 to buy this ring right here. If you could, I can't. If I put it up close, you won't be able to
It's
see
not
it because
focused, but
yeah. But this is like just a gold plated $50 ring I bought in like 2003, maybe. When I was in third grade, right when the movie came out, the last one, the Return of the King, and I thought I used to wear this on my freaking neck with the chain on. I used to think I was so badass. I
did you
try
wear
to
that
put
in
it.
school?
I don't know if I wore it to school. I don't think I was that nerdy because I still had a reputation to uphold, you know. Um,
Right. Of
but
course.
I'll put it on. And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm turning invisible." I'll try to like recreate that scene where they're in the prancing pony
Yeah.
and Frodo like it lands right on his finger. But anyways, I was
I
such a
bet
I
you
was
did.
but people thought I was like this cool dude. But in reality, I was just this big ass nerd that would just think about Lord of the Rings all the time. Anyways, so I guess I was wrong about that. But there's a few other things I kind of wanted to touch on. We touched on box office. We touched on how much it made and how long it was filmed for. Um, but I kind of want to talk about like the most important aspect of this film was just, and what a lot of films are lacking now, um, is the story. I mean, you got Tolkien who wrote one of the best stories, if not the best story I've ever read. I mean, I've read The Hobbit, Fellowship, Two Towers, and The Return of the King. And yeah, the books are a little bit different than the film, but for the most part, Peter Jackson did a really, really, really good job of staying true and adapting those books to the screenplay and executing it. And I think we can get into kind of how he executed it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a good story within a film, which a lot of films these days, yeah, they're first of all they're unoriginal, and this is the first time Lord of the Rings was told like this. So it was original at the time, um, but at the end of the day, it really was just the story, and um, that's what made it so good. Wells and I get irritated all the time about. We're not going to get into it on this podcast, but how nothing's novel anymore. It's all just regurgitated. It's Marvel, Star Wars, Disney's ruining Star Wars, and we are a little bit afraid of. And we can touch on this too, but
We might not want to do this in this podcast. This one.
but we're just a little bit concerned about the Rings of Power. We don't have much faith in what Amazon's going to do here, but
I'm not full doom and gloom because I typically like I used to be very like negative about this kind of stuff, but I'm keeping a positive outlook about it, and I'm just gonna wait.
yeah,
But
because if we put that positive energy out, okay, there's two ways to look at it though. Yeah, we can put that positive energy out, and hopefully it reciprocates on film. But also, I don't want to have my hopes set too high to where I know for a fact they're going to get shattered. So if I have
yeah,
my expectations down here, there's only one way it can go up, or there's only
that's
one way it
true.
can go, and that's up.
I
But
mean,
there
yeah,
were some signs. Okay, there's two things. There's some signs of hope with how they designed the orcs, and it didn't seem like it was how they did it in The Hobbit, where it was all
ooh,
CGI, green screen
I
stuff.
really
So
like the way they did the orcs and
yeah,
Rings of
so
Power.
yeah, from what we've seen,
Yeah,
but what Lord of the Rings was so good at the original trilogy is the world building and how they were able to use these large clay models and even these larger sets to create this world that seemed like, even at the time, it still holds up, but it seemed at the time that you were actually immersed within that world, whether it was mines in the mines of Moria, or you're in Mordor, if you were in Rivendell, like it felt like you were there. And when I watched the previews of the Rings of Power, it's like almost, I was telling Wells this, it seems like it's lit too perfectly. Like there's no imperfections. It seems too ethereal. It seems like it's not attainable. And I think with Lord of the Rings, yeah, it's fantasy, but it almost seemed like it was a real place. Like you could go there, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense. It's kind of like with um, the Hobbits. That was not a. It was all. It seemed like a cartoon. It seemed like that wasn't a real place. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very like it's very the lighting and the way they shot at least The Hobbit and Rings of Power is very similar, and how it just looks in studio, like,
Yeah, that's a good way to
and
put it.
that's fine. I mean, it's just
It's lazy.
Lord of the Rings feels so like tangible. It's like it's so like
You can grab it. It's like
when they shoot the helicopter coming, like they're clearly in a helicopter when they're running through Rohan, and they're trying to chase down the Urukai. It's like, dude, like you just know they've been traveling for so long. It's like they've been running, and like in real life they ran they ran like 9 miles that day.
yeah. So that's what made I think another big reason what made Lord of the Rings so good was first of all they casted perfectly, and we don't get into the casting yet. I do want to put up or pose this as I read something. You mentioned a helicopter. Sean Bean, Boromir, was so deathly afraid of getting in helicopters when they're shooting those scenes like up on the mountains. He would, instead of getting in a helicopter and going up there, he would literally hike up to where they were going because he wouldn't get in the helicopter. I didn't know
I
Sean
mean,
Bean. I mean, I know he was a badass, but he also gets killed off in every single movie he's in or show.
yeah, he does.
Within
He
like,
just doesn't want to get killed off in real life.
yeah,
He has more faith in his own ability to hike than helicopters. And I mean,
yeah.
helicopters are sketchy. I mean, lots of people die in helicopters. I don't blame them, but that's kind of bad. I mean, it's kind of like he's kind of a baby, but it's kind of badass that he was like,
And
screw it, I'll hike
I'm
anyway.
kind of with him. I'm with
Yeah,
him a little bit. I don't really like flying either, dude. But
especially
for
a
the
helicopter. I've
sake
never
of
been in a helicopter, but I'm not.
yeah,
It's
recent
kind of
events
sketchy.
have kind of even got me more scared of them, especially
Yeah,
around big mountains and the altitude changes. I'm not sure how high they were up, but things get a little haywire up there.
yeah.
Shoot, I was gonna mention something else. Oh, okay. So one of the things that people don't realize too is when Tolkien was writing these books, what he did was he was a I don't even know, not a linguist, but what's the guy? I don't even know what the proper term is, but they just create languages.
I
A
mean,
languagist.
a linguist is kind of the right word. He was a professor, was he not?
Yeah, but anyway, so he would just come up with all these own languages, and he came up with, I guess, Elvish. Is that right?
Yeah, he came up. I mean,
Elvish tongue.
he wrote. I mean, every language in the book is.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But he came
Yeah,
up with that, and he really fell in love with that language that he created. And so he's like, oh, he didn't. It wasn't the other way around. He didn't write a book and was like, oh, I need to put a language in it. No, he wrote languages, and he's like, oh, I need something. I need a world to put this language in. So he kind of did it backwards, and I think that's another reason why it was so successful because he was so detailed. There was really no stone left unturned. No holes in the plot. Literally, if you just kind of wrote the screenplay as Tolkien kind of wrote the book, I know you can't put everything in there. There's no way you can fail. And I think Peter Jackson, I'm sure it was scary as hell to take on that responsibility, but as long as you just, I say this a lot, but it's almost impossible to screw up something Tolkien wrote, but it's kind of almost been done before. I don't want to say the Hobbits were screwed up, but they're just not my favorite because they didn't stay true to the book, and they kept adding stuff that wasn't necessary. That wasn't necessary to the plot.
could have been one movie.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, yeah, it could
But
have been one movie, but
they
it
want
is
to
what it is.
they wanted to make some money on it. I understand.
And I'm
how it
pretty
goes.
sure Jackson made a made a deal with
The
the
Tolkien estate.
yeah that I could be wrong. I don't want to like say this as fact, but I remember hearing that he made a deal with the Tolkien, I guess, family, or
Yeah.
Tolkien is how you're supposed to say it.
Yeah, no, I'm like, is it Tolkien? But
Tolkien, and they kind of said that he can do whatever he wants
espresso,
or
sorry.
with the Hobbit, like creative. He can take creative liberties with the Hobbit, but dude, to be honest,
Like why though? Like
Peter
the Hobbit,
Jackson,
the Hobbit was the best book. Like, and there's no reason to even touch that.
the Hobbit is good. Peter Jackson, to like give him like credit, is like he did everything he could have done with the 3 films, and from what you hear through interviews uh of the characters or the actors that played in Lord of the Rings, is like there will never be, and there was never a production like Lord of the Rings, because they stayed there for so long. They were embedded in the local culture in New Zealand, and a movie will never be shot like that again. It was, I mean, they had like a lot of late nights. They
I,
basically
yeah, no,
worked
it's
ridiculous hours every day, but like the work they put in shows in the films like so clearly.
the reason, and I think the reason why they kind of all understood what venture they were undertaking. Like they understood the weight and they understood what was at stake, because you have the greatest fantasy novels written of all time, the greatest world ever built, Middle Earth, greatest characters ever written. You you only get one shot at doing that, and I think they understood that, and I think casting was such a big. If I'm not mistaken, they all had to read the books before, right? And there's a
I
couple
don't
things
think
I want.
so,
There's
because
a
I
couple
was
things I wanted
with
to touch on, like, and I don't want to get into, but we'll get into when we talk about casting and characters. But let's stop there. I don't want to get into all that.
okay.
I kind of want to talk more about um, the theme, because we didn't really touch on that. Like, there's only two. Oh, there's a lot of themes and underlying themes within this film, but it's such a simple theme. Okay, one of them is good versus evil, and that we always come back to those simple like movies that are just good versus evil, and we know good guys are really good, bad guys are really bad. I kind of read, and maybe some of y'all that are listening read this, but that how Lord of the Rings has become a comfort film, because you know there's no agenda with the good guys, and the bad guys are just bad. There's no middle ground. There's no gray area. I mean, obviously here and there you have characters struggling, like Boromir struggling with his underlying issues, but for the most part, it's
Saruman.
Saruman. But he's just a bad dude.
But yeah, I
Good
mean, in
versus
the
bad.
movies, yeah, he is just
And
bad.
so it's just it's refreshing, man. I think a lot of times these, um, even with, I know George R. R. Martin kind of wanted to do it differently. He wanted to like have just gray area within the whole uh,
It's more
Game of
realistic.
Thrones series. Yeah, and it is more realistic, but
Yeah.
a lot of times we just need to see good triumph over evil. Even when there's literally no hope, as Gandalf says, there's always hope, just a fool's hope. It's just a beautiful film, or films. And another thing is, uh, it's the little guy, man. It's the little guy that's able to overcome and make the biggest difference. Um, you got Frodo and Sam. Without them, nothing would have happened. So
Hold on. Without
it's
Sam, nothing would have happened. Frodo.
people always
Frodo
say that.
is
No, people always say that, but Frodo was the one chosen to carry the ring. Without Frodo taking because people forget, in the books it explains a lot clearly, and I don't want to be that guy. Oh, well, if you read the books, but I'm gonna have to. Frodo literally was in agony the entire time he's carrying this ring, this weight of this ring on his chest constantly. It's literally tormenting him. It's torturing him. and you don't really get that in the movies. Yeah, you just think he's being a whiny bitch, and he is. It's annoying, and he comes off that way. But like he is without Frodo, it wouldn't have happened. And it's Samwise is a lot more likable, and without Samwise, nothing would have happened either. But you had to have both.
Yeah.
You just had to have both. But I will say Samwise was a lot more likable in the films. Rudy.
I mean, yeah, you can't really help. Like Sam was there to be that.
Yeah.
Like he was there to kind of. I mean, he's a simple character. Like he was there to just keep
He wasn't
Frodo
people.
grounded.
He was literally there. He was literally there to serve Frodo. Frodo was his master. In the books, you see it more clearly. Frodo was like 30 years older than Samwise, and all Sam wanted to do was please Frodo. That's all he wanted to do, and then whatever he had to do, that's what he was going to do. If Frodo went to Mordor, that's what he had to do. Sam didn't want to do all that. So, anyways, yeah, those are two simple themes that drive the story, and you have other underlying themes like, Aragorn fulfilling his destiny to
Yeah.
become king, which I really enjoy, like following a character like that who is just at the beginning you don't really know who he is, and he ends up being this badass, and he comes out, and then Frodo's like, oh, Frodo had no idea who he was. He was the heir. I really love that scene, but simple themes like that are forgotten now. Everybody's trying to, and even okay, so even in Interstellar, I hate to say this, but this is one of our other favorite films. It is still a simple theme where love transcends time. I think people get away from that and they try to make something so they think it's novel, but it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Don't try not. We probably shouldn't try to get into Interstellar.
Oh no, I'm not
I
gonna.
know.
I just want to say that's one of our other favorite films, and it's a simple, even though the plot is sometimes hard to understand, and a lot of the technical stuff and astrophysics are hard to understand, but it's all comes back to just a simple theme.
Yeah.
Um, and also these films, like there's a tone to it. It makes you feel a certain way. I'm so I don't know. I guess I would ask you this, Wells. How does when you're watching these films, what do you feel as you're watching them? What tone do you think?
I don't. It's weird. I mean, they're comfort movies for me.
Yeah.
So
You watch them once a
also,
year?
yeah, usually. I mean, I just watched all three of them.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like I get it. It's basically when I don't really know. I guess I'm amazed by the scale. That's not really like how I'm like a feeling I get. I guess like warm because yeah, like they're very. I know that like how you said earlier that it's a very simple premise, but how they come about, you know, the beginning to the end and like how they get from point A to point B in the story and all the crap that happens to them throughout the whole entire films and books is just insane how they captured all that and how it even took 3 hours is already long, but it's crazy how they could get even all that stuff into 3 hours of film.
I think you have to. I mean, it's so immersive because you are genuinely interested in every single character because of how they develop the characters, and the dialogue within each character is so well thought out and so well executed that you have to care about each character.
Right.
Um, and they made a fellowship, so without each of these characters, this fellowship wouldn't be carried out. And Gandalf dies in the first movie. Boromir dies in the first movie. People forget about that. Like that's huge. That's kind of unheard of with two of the main characters getting killed off Spoilers. If you hadn't seen Lord of the Rings, what are you doing?
I'm sure that some people watching or listening or watching this have watched Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Gandalf dies in the first movie, and Boromir.
Yeah. Surprise. But
Kinda.
yeah. Don't give anything away.
Like, if you haven't watched it by now,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you hadn't watched it by now, stop listening to this damn podcast. And go listen and watch something that actually matters. I think also how they do such a good job of immersing you in this film is the soundtrack.
oh yeah,
I mean,
I haven't even thought about that, dude.
the
Oh,
soundtrack.
I should have. Oh man, we should have done like a top 5 soundtrack or songs or
Oh
themes.
yeah. We so we're gonna do a top 5 and a not top 5 later. We should have done the top 5. I guess would it be scores
Scores,
or
yeah.
yeah.
So
I'm
I
not a
have a
music guy.
weird
Wells
one,
is the music guy, but I'm not a music
kind
guy.
of,
We can
but
go ahead and talk about what our favorite score though.
yeah. Mine's easy, and mine's probably not one that other people would choose. But
No, no,
so
no,
my
no,
favorite,
no.
okay, my favorite theme or score in the whole in all 3 movies is Saruman's theme for the Uruk-hai when they're going to Helm's Deep. Like the whole, I'll play it under this, but it's probably my favorite theme in the whole in all 3 films. But interesting story. When I was in high school, I was in marching band. Anyway, I went to my band director and I said, like, I think we should play this song when our team's on defense because it's such a badass song. It's like so sick. I went to him and I asked him like 3 years in a row if we could play Saruman's theme as the background music to like when they're on defense or a
Bro,
fourth
that'd be
down.
so badass
Yeah, I
if I
know.
was playing football and I heard that. I'd be
I know.
hyped.
I was like, it's such a good idea because it's such a badass. It's so like powerful.
Yeah.
But we never got to play it because I don't think you could find the sheet music for it. You have to pay for sheet music. It's a whole thing. But I wanted
How
to play.
much?
That's my
Yeah.
favorite one.
I don't know. I think my favorite one is. I love the Shire music. I mean, I
That's my
love when
second
they.
favorite.
Yeah, I love when
Mhm.
they're in the Shire. I was just like, oh man.
Do-do-do,
Yeah.
do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, it's so good.
But anytime they ride into battle, I don't care. I don't know. I think they're all different scores, but like I think there's different music. I would say the Two Towers probably has the best music in
Yeah,
in
Two
all.
Towers. Oh, dude. Okay, yeah. Two Towers is
Like Helm's Deep is probably my favorite battle scene, just because everything led up to that at the end. There's so many battles in the Return of the King that it's hard to keep up. But like the Helm's Deep was just an epic battle and how they shot it. I think the scale of that was nuts.
no, there's only one battle in Return of the King.
No,
It's just what's it? Let me think.
like well, there's
Oh,
a bunch of different.
Osgiliath, yeah.
Osgiliath, that's one. Then Gondor, Pelennor Fields. Then Gates of Mordor, the Black Gates.
Oh my god, dude. I forgot
Yeah,
about I
yeah.
forgot about the Black Gates. I'm
So
sorry.
it's like but all those are sick. But there's just they all it just was a lot. It was a lot. It didn't
Helm's
hold
Deep's
as
by
much.
far the best
Yeah, it
of
was
all
just
those.
epic. It was just epic.
Because I think the thing about Helm's Deep, like,
We're,
it's just how it starts. You don't wanna talk about it right now?
okay, well, we were talking about soundtrack. I was going to get into like the world building
Oh, yeah.
because
You go ahead.
well, the world building. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but like that's what sets these films apart to me. There's not obviously there's CGI, but there's not. It's mixed in with practical effects. Wells talks about he knows a little bit more about this than I do, but um, from what I've seen behind the scenes stuff, like how they built these miniature scale models, even though you think they're miniature, they're still pretty big. Like they're taller than you, and how they're able to get the shots within the cinematographer. I forget who the cinematographer was. I think he not recently passed away, but anyways, he did all the films for and we'll put it up on the screen because I want to pay homage to him. But I just thought it was brilliant how they were able to execute that. And it's hard to even like unless you're on the set and you understand how films are made. And I really don't understand how some of these films are made. I shoot a lot of commercial stuff. I know how to set up lighting, but I don't know how to do all that shit. Like that's crazy.
One
It's
thing
nuts.
I don't understand and like about these kind of films, and I want to know is like, I guess if you shoot on film, it's different, but how many like gigabytes/terabytes of footage do they get for these films?
Well, back then it was all shot on film until recently.
Yeah,
But now everything's like, people still want to shoot on film, but with film, it's like so expensive.
because it's
Um,
physical. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
it's like you don't get nearly as many takes, but it's so, and people are like, why don't we just shoot on digital? There's a film look with film you can't replicate, even if you try to replicate it on digital. There's just no way you can get those like tiny imperfections. It just looks so damn good. Like you
yeah,
can tell from something.
film's
It's
great.
king. It's king. But there is a lot of upside to shooting on digital
Okay,
too.
don't like get mad at me, but how does the editing process for shooting on film work?
I've never shot on film, so I'm not sure, but I'm sure they somehow eventually. I have no idea. So don't quote me.
Is this beyond
Yeah, because I've
your
never shot on film,
okay.
but I'm sure they digitalize it, and then they're able to edit
Just
on top of
it's
the
just a
film listed.
file.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only way that I could imagine it could
Do
work.
these do you know if these production companies, do they edit in like they don't edit in like
They don't
Premiere?
edit. No, they don't edit in Premiere Pro. No.
Damn,
I mean,
I should
I'm
look that
not
up.
really. Yeah, we can look it up. I've just
Yeah.
I only use DaVinci and Premiere Pro because I can imagine editing a 3-hour long film would be quite the challenge with Premiere Pro. Not to say you can't do it. I'm sure it's been done a lot. Yeah, let me know what they say because that's interesting. I kind of want to know. I've looked it up before, but I keep forgetting. But
Okay,
I thought
I know what editing is.
a couple things here, with the world building and how they were. I think the biggest thing that they were able to do that was really impressive was merge New Zealand and the sets that they built and make it flow without you like being, oh, that's just a set that they built. Because the good thing, and they scouted, obviously, they're like, oh, New Zealand would be the perfect place for this fantasy world because it has mountains, it has the ocean, it has these fields, and these plains that they can use, and uh, the way that they were able to merge those together, I wasn't able to. And now that I watch it now, I can depict each. But like then, when I was younger, I didn't know much about film. I just thought it was all just like it didn't skip a beat to me. I didn't even notice there was a difference. Um,
Basically, editing is a very long and painstaking process. Like there's a you have to it's pretty crazy. You have to have it all storyboarded. They start editing as filming starts. They edit while they
people don't understand. Well, yes, that's true. Like physical editing, but
yeah.
editing starts before you start filming. Editing starts with film schedule and all of that, like all pre-production stuff, getting everything lined up because you film a lot of times you film to edit, um, especially if you're on
You
a
should always
deadline.
film to edit.
Yeah, well, you should, but sometimes you just go out of the way to get a shot. They're like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to edit this yet, but I know I want this. You know,
Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying.
um,
And if you're a gamer, you can't film that. You can't record to edit. So
yeah, you just get what you get. It's like
you
a
go for
reality TV show.
you go for content. Yeah, you go for content and then you edit. I mean, that's different. That's a whole different thing that we can get into in another podcast. But anyway,
Yeah, I do. We are going to get into reality TV shows later, but
and
That's
like
neither here nor there.
content creation side of stuff. Not like, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, like YouTube stuff. But what is your favorite set? Where was your favorite in Middle Earth? I guess where's your favorite location?
Okay, my favorite. All right, this is actually a hard one.
I know
Well,
I have one.
Can I talk about my favorite shot?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do favorite
This,
shot and then favorite location or
okay.
set.
The best shot, and this is kind of I see the shot a lot. The best shot in Lord of the Rings, like in all 3 films to me, is when I'll set the scene. Okay. So Denethor makes Faramir go to Osgiliath. It's a futile mission, and everyone knows that it is. He knows it is. Faramir knows, but he's coming back, and Gandalf is like, "Screw this! I gotta go help him because the Nazgul
Oh, dude,
are
that
coming
is
down."
such a sick shot. Dude,
Okay,
we gotta
so
watch. We gotta watch that, or at least show it on the screen.
all right, yeah, I'll show it. But Gandalf comes and he makes the Nazgul go away, but so he loops back around on his horse. It
That sounds like that sounds like Star Wars.
Anyway, the camera's behind Gandalf following him. I'm sure they're on a helicopter. It is the most all right. So that he has his like staff up, and then the light goes like, but he's like they're following him, and like you can
Yeah.
just hear the wind and like the. I think that you can hear. I could be mistaken. I think you can hear like his horse and like the grass. That's probably just my imagination.
What's Gandalf's horse's name?
Shadowfax.
Okay.
But and the sun, the way the sun hits, there's the darkness into the left side of the screen, kind of like retreating, and then the
They do
light
such a
kind
good
of
job.
overtaking it.
That whole sequence where it's like the orcs coming in, like the clouds are dark, and then obviously and then the Rohirrim comes and it becomes light. I just think that's so sick. But I'm with you. That's one of the best shots. Not even the shot you're talking about. It's the wide shot where you see Gandalf's staff up, white
Yeah,
staff, his white robe falling behind him. He's on Shadowfax. It's all white. He puts it up. Huge light comes out. Beams are
yeah,
shooting
dude.
everywhere, but it's a wide shot. It's so cool. And then the
It's a
Nazgul were just,
bad
yeah,
ass shot, dude.
yeah,
It's like very. It's not even a long shot either. I think the shot itself is like 2-3 seconds.
yeah,
But like I remember, I was literally watching it the other day, and I was like, dude, that is the sickest
yeah.
shot, and it's used a lot. I mean, I see it quite a bit on like social media and stuff, but yeah, dude, it's just so good. But my favorite set is Hobbiton. Just the town.
Because it's an actual
It's a
place.
place. I want to go there. Me and you should go
Yeah,
there one day.
but that's not my favorite set. And I'm not going to say Rivendell. I'm going to go with Gondor. I just think Gondor is
Like
so,
Minas Tirith?
yeah, like just the whole realm though, like all of it. But
Yeah.
Minas Tirith, yeah, like just the way they set that up. I don't know. It's so pretty to me. It seems like it's an actual like I've obviously never seen a castle that massive or look that cool, but how it's set up on that rock or on that mountain, the bottom of the mountain, it's just so bad. I've always kind of been enamored by that white marble look too. I just thought it was so cool.
Yeah. I remember seeing that. I don't remember seeing it for the first time. I was really young, but still when I see that, I'm like, dude. First off, the imagination that it takes to like come up with something like that is crazy. I don't think I could probably do that just from.
Well, just from reading the books from Tolkien, I'm like, I'm painting this picture from what I've seen in the movies, but how they painted the picture, I'm sure there was like there's someone before them kind of had a rendering or had like an idea, and they kind of went with that and ran with it. But I couldn't come up with, even if I was reading Tolkien's work, I was like, there's no way I could come up with that.
No, it was like that's the scale, the sense of scale with those shots. Especially, there's a shot where the Nazgul are diving down towards
Yeah,
Minas
dude,
Tirith.
those I don't know how they get those shots. I thought those were so sick.
Yeah,
With the
I don't.
Nazgul are like tossing people off the walls and just ripping up those catapults and stuff.
Yeah, dude. That's also true, dude. I don't know how they do that either because I wish. Yeah, I don't know because there's a shot where the Nazgul rip up the catapult and then the log.
Yeah,
Like,
and
it
the
goes like,
sound
"Dun,
design was
dun, dun." Yeah, it's pretty sweet. But, yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how
guess
they're
guess the population of Gondor,
I feel like it's not that much.
bro.
Is it a lot?
Like all of Gondor.
Oh, Gondor, the realm of Gondor.
Yeah,
Is it a lot?
I mean, so, yeah, it's a lot more than you think.
10 million?
Oh well, no, it's
Okay.
3,425,000.
How do they know
That's
that?
I mean, that's a good point. That's a good
How
point.
do they know that? But what was I gonna say? Because if you look at Minas Tirith, as badass as Minas Tirith is, I'm like, there's not that many people that could live there. It's
Yeah,
like it's not the best
but
design for
but
for a
no, but
city.
there's holes within the mountain. There's ways to escape too.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why they
shit.
built it there.
I didn't even think
Yeah,
about it like that.
yeah.
I mean, it's like Helm's
It
Deep, like,
goes it
they can
goes
get
deep
back.
into the mountain. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
But also, you think about the location of it. Shit location. Right next to. It was really not
well,
that close to Mordor, but it's
but
pretty close.
Mordor used to be
Yeah, it wasn't. I
a
understand. I
yeah.
understand. Like, but I'm sure the property value.
You should play Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War
Did
because
he
you get to
try?
be a
This is
rank.
what guys. This is what he does. He knows I don't play video games, and he tries to. This is an unending process. He tries to get me to download a video game. I'll download it. I'll play it for a day or two, and I'm like, oh, I got so much other shit I got to do. Or my fiance will bitch at me, and so I'm like, oh, that's over. So
Well,
I
maybe
spent
she'll
$50.
understand.
I spent $50 on a damn game, and then
How much? 15
50.
on what?
I've done that before.
Okay,
Like
well,
the Call of Duty game, and it's
you
also PC games, and I get my ass whooped.
okay, well, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War are single player games. You play as a ranger
Oh,
you're in
that's sick.
Mordor.
So
Dude, yeah,
you're a Dunedain.
okay, I don't know.
Those are what Rangers are.
But you can turn into you're like a ethereal person. Like, you can change into, like, kind of like a wraith, kind of.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Dude, it's pretty you would like it because
Hey,
like,
this is all cool, but I'm not gonna play it.
that's fair.
I'm
Okay.
jealous though. I'm jealous, but I'm not gonna play it. Anyways, that's my favorite shot though. My favorite shot, because I didn't get into my favorite shot. I got my favorite set. Let's go ahead and pull it up.
Okay.
It's Helm's Deep. We
Is
all
it
know. We all know what it is. Helm's Deep. Gandalf comes off. He's riding with Éomer, and the rest is history.
You know what's weird about that though? Is I kinda get pissed when I see Gandalf coming over
Why?
because I don't want the battle to end, dude. It's like such a bad it's such a
Yeah,
badass,
but
like,
it was a long battle. I mean,
it's not as dude, alright. Yeah, you're right, but it's not as long as, the Minas Tirith one.
yeah, but that's because they had so many moving parts behind it. This one was just one storyline. Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Éomer. No, not Éomer. Theoden.
Yeah.
Like they're all just fighting and trying their best. I mean, there was other moving parts, like you had the Ents fighting, but for the most part, it was just that. But then, like Minas Tirith, there was like so many other things going on, and they did draw out the battle really, really long, and it also felt like when you're watching the battle at Minas Tirith, there was no like they were just getting their ass beat, so it didn't feel like I did not like watching it. It's like, dude,
Yeah, that's true,
they're
like,
getting
there's
shit on it, and
that
like
is
they weren't
true.
doing anything. They were just like all scared, and it was just
And when the,
it just
are you
didn't
talking
feel like
about
much.
oh, you're talking about the Gondorians.
Yeah, and
Okay,
they have
yeah.
some badass armor too, and I like a lot of their like, but they just didn't have. They didn't have the infrastructure. They had the infrastructure, but they didn't have the manpower to kind of fend because they weren't. You have to remember who was ruling them. Denethor didn't really have much hope. He didn't. He kind of wanted to see. He honestly wanted to see Minas Tirith fall before Aragorn got there because he knew he was the heir and he didn't want to see all that happen. He's like, I'll die before I see some ranger from the north or whatever he says. Just doesn't want to bow to Aragorn. Anyway, so you got to remember that. But for the most
Right.
part, yeah, I enjoyed that Battle of Helm's Deep so much. That's almost why I want to choose. Sometimes I want to choose the Two Towers.
Yeah, is your favorite?
But then I remember like Aragorn's my favorite character, so to see him kind of come into his own in the third movie is just so okay. So the Fellowship of the Ring got an 8.8 on IMDb.
Had to think about.
Yeah, I always say IMBD. And then the Two Towers got an 8.8, and then Return of the King got.
I think it got like a 9, didn't it?
Yeah, it got a 9. So it's better. It's the best.
It's like I said earlier. The ability to tell the story with the scale of everything is like absolutely insane. That's why the movies are so good. They have such good rewatchability
Yeah,
because of just how enormous everything
yeah.
is.
It's the best fantasy films of all time. It's not even really close.
And it's unfair to compare anything else to it.
But
Like,
you can argue like other films are better than because as a collective trilogy, by far the best. Then you
right,
have the Dark Knight second, and then I
as
think
a
everything
trilogy,
else.
yeah,
Yeah, I think everything else is kind of like not even close.
right.
That one he sent me some stupid TikTok telling like it was like these are the best trilogies or whatever. What was that? I don't know. I thought it was stupid because they had like what's that trilogy? The Mockingbird,
The Hunger Games.
Hunger Games trilogy. I was like, how is this even? They had a bunch of Hunger Games movies in front of Dark Knight movies, or like
Yeah,
the Dark Knight trilogy movies.
it was rough. I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't that, dude. There really isn't that many good trilogies, but um, my fiance always wants to watch fantasy stuff, and like she always wants to watch something fantasy because she loves Harry Potter, and she doesn't really like Lord of the Rings that much, but she's like, I want
that's
to
the
watch
only
something.
other thing you can talk about. Like fantasy wise, it's the only
Yeah,
other thing that can even hold up a candle.
and I try to tell her, I'm like, you're going to struggle to find like there's nothing. So there's The Witcher. I think The Witcher's okay, and then there's like Game of Thrones, which has fantasy aspects.
Game of
But
Thrones, okay, Game of Thrones, and
yeah,
but you can't. That's not a movie.
that's a show.
But
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
Game
talking
of
about like
Thrones, yes.
yeah. Okay. Anyway,
We'll just talk about fantasy. Yes, so you have Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter. What else? Fantasy wise, that
uh,
you can even like say is objectively good. Yeah, I mean,
there's really is
maybe there
nothing.
are some, and maybe we're just being we're pretty harsh.
Yeah,
But for the most part, man, you can't name one because there aren't any.
yeah. They're really you're gonna struggle to find them. And if you do, let us know because
Okay,
I love fantasy. So
yeah, I mean, I do too. If it's done right, I love fantasy.
fantasy is good for we talked about it, but fantasy is good for games and stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Like
hard to do.
Skyrim's a cool game, but have they ever done like a movie?
No, dude. They've released that game 20 times since it came out.
Yeah,
Anyway, we won't get into that.
yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this. So we at the end of each podcast, we wanted to do like a top 5 and a not top 5. So like whatever film we're talking about, we kind of or whatever show or topic we're talking about, we want to do a top 5 on it and a not top 5, and that can be any top 5 of anything within the movie. So this week we're going to do top 5 characters that we like.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leads into like I wanted to talk about the casting and characters because that was like one of the main things that made this film work. and then we're gonna do just the not top 5. Just what we didn't like about the movies, because there's not really much within the film that we can talk about that we don't like. So we kind of had to broaden it a little bit. So just not top 5, whatever it is. It could be not top 5 character, not top 5 part of the movie, whatever it is. So I want to do not top 5 first. I'm gonna let Wells go and take this one away. But not
Okay.
top 5, Lord of the Rings. What in the movie did you not like?
Okay. So this is top 5.
This should be in order.
All right. This is not top 5 in order. I'll go. Okay. Mine's not really in order.
Okay. Well, this is kind of hard to do in order because it's really hard to even find 5 things I don't like about the movie.
So number 5 for me is Denethor. Just annoying. I don't like.
That's a good one. I didn't have that one. That's a good one.
His storyline, like every single time I see him on screen, I'm like, hey, that's the point of his character. You're not supposed to like him. But like, dude, I just want the scene to end. Especially because after you watch it so many times, you're like, okay, he's gonna catch on fire and jump off. It doesn't matter. I was like, I just want him to be gone. Number 4 is I call it rock cape. It's whenever.
Oh god, dude, that is so bad. Well, hey, okay,
I know why. They're elvish, and they are supposed to disguise them like they're their capes that they wear.
But the way it's shot was pretty bad. Like, so when he first throws it up, first, like it looks like a cape, and then when they cut away and do like a wider shot, it looks like a rock. Even when I first saw it, I was like, "Wait, where'd they go?"
Because it's so that So also they're running down a cliff in front of an army, and like they look that way. It's the way it's shot. I think if you made some adjustments. But
I think they could have taken that whole thing out and just had them look and be like, "Oh, there's no way we can get in there," and then just turn around. They didn't need to have a lot of. Okay, I'm gonna touch on this. A lot of the shots with Frodo and Sam and Gollum, I'm like, okay, can we wrap it up? I want to see more Aragorn do some heroic shit. But that scene cracks me up. And let's touch on this though. In the books, they harp on this a lot, but those cloaks were given to them by the elves, Lorien or Lady Galadriel.
All right, go. So go back and explain like who has the capes, and like who gave them the capes. Just
the Fellowship. Everybody in the Fellowship got the capes,
right?
So, and they're supposed to be like this green, gray, brownish color. Like they're kind of magic cloaks, almost like cloak of invisibility. No, it's not like that. But so Galadriel, who is the most powerful character within the world of Middle Earth, she gives them these cloaks, and they're supposed to obviously keep them warm, keep them cool, but keep them hidden no matter what landscape they're in. And a lot of times in the books, they'll be like within 5-10 feet of somebody, especially orcs, and they cannot see them. They just literally can't see them because it's somewhat like a magic cloak.
Right.
So that's kind of touches on that scene a little bit, but it was just executed poorly. I'm with you there.
Yeah. All right. So Rock Cape was number 4.
Rock Cape. The Rock Cape Gate.
Rock Cloak. That's pretty bad. Number 3 is Worm Tongue. Just a character that pisses me off so bad. I want to punch him in the face. And
but they did a good job of making Denethor and Worm Tongue so despisable.
Yeah. I do one thing I do like to touch on with Worm Tongue is whenever Saruman shows him his army, and even Worm Tongue realizes what he's like done. Yeah. That's a cool scene because like you see the tear. He doesn't say anything. There's just a tear on his face, and he's like he realizes like what's happening.
Okay, so first off, with Worm Tongue, the makeup they did with Worm Tongue was incredible. They made him look just like a little slimy worm,
vile.
But also, I think you're right. But I could pose the question: was the tear coming out because he was like in awe, or was he literally like, "Oh, these are going to kill a lot of people," and that he actually maybe cares about in
Are
Rohan.
you saying like he's like it's so beautiful that he's like shedding a
Yeah,
tear to
yeah,
him because he's
yeah.
not right in the head? I didn't think about it like that because of the reason I didn't think about it like that is because I can't remember the lines that he says before that,
You
and
know, I
he's
think
like,
you're right. I think
he
you're
goes,
right.
"There is no such army,"
Yeah,
and then he comes up, and then the way he looks, it's like his gaze, it's like holy shit, like what
yeah.
have I like helped him do? That's how I
You
think
can,
about it.
yeah. Well, we want to think about it that way, I guess.
All right, so
Top
number
two.
2, my top 2, and this really I think I'd put Rock Cape at 2. But
Yeah, I'm with
at,
you, dude.
number 2 is when Frodo and Sam are stuck in Osgiliath / like uh the cave with Faramir. Like I actually like Faramir a lot. It has nothing to do with his character. It's
That
just at
scene,
this
there is
point,
something about that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There is something about that scene.
it's like dude, like they've been held up like a few times by now, and at
Yeah,
this point, you're like, ah, man, like come on, kind of get to the point. Um, but it wouldn't be Lord of the Rings without, like I said, like they want you to feel like it's taken forever to get to Mordor, and they do, and it was necessary. It's not like an unnecessary part
it
of the
took
movie.
him a year, almost a year, to get from
13 months, I think, right?
yeah, from not to Mordor, but the whole trip there and back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, he that part was just kind of like probably put that at 5 because it's not that annoying. I'm just kind of like ready for them to like.
no, I'm with you there though. I'm like, man, let's wrap it up. It just feels kind of like hopeless. Like, these little hobbits can't do shit, can't do anything to get away. I mean,
Yeah, and then like Faramir does the stereotypical like man thing, and he's like, "I'm gonna bring you to Minas Tirith. You're gonna see my father." And I'm like, "Oh my god, dude! Like this
yeah,
again?" But Faramir is Faramir. He's a badass.
yeah.
And then my least favorite, my number one least favorite thing, and all of my not top 5 Lord of the Rings is Eowyn. Um,
Eowyn.
Eowyn, because I get all
There's
right. So she represents kind of a normal life for like Aragorn, I suppose, like where he's not marrying someone who has to make such a big decision. Like if he chose her, right, he would be with someone who wouldn't have to make such a massive decision to be literally immortal or um or mortal.
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. What's the word for it? What's the
but
opposite of immortal?
but yeah,
Immortal?
Eowyn, it's just like, dude, it's not gonna happen. Like, just stop, because like,
I love that. I love those scenes. I think it's like kind of like badass that everyone's like, nah.
dude, Aragorn is
He
not.
swerves. He's not about it. He's a menace, man.
Would you consider Aragorn to be a Sigma male?
He is what's a Sigma male?
Like a Sigma male is someone who doesn't let the trivial things like Eowyn distract him from his main goal.
Dude, yeah. I mean, I would say that's not a trivial thing because he actually does care about her, and she's literally like really, really highborn. And she's kind of a badass in her own right. But yeah, I do like how he swerves her, and he can see Aragorn's not the type of guy. That's what makes him his character to me is so likable, man. He understands what he has to do. He's not
He
gonna let
always makes the
any
right decision, dude, every
yeah, dude.
time.
Yeah.
Which is
Even
like,
like even Gandalf, who's the greatest wizard in Middle Earth, he becomes a white wizard. He overpasses Saruman. He looks up to Aragorn. He's like, "This is without Aragorn, he wouldn't have been able to trust men, and he would have done what he did because with Aragorn being the heir and giving Gandalf faith and hope in men, nothing would have happened. Like
right,
that's how badass he was. Like essentially, without Aragorn, none of that would happen. It's not even
yeah,
like a question. But yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, my not top 10 or not top 5 is a little different, but there's similarities. Um, I would say this
is
about
Rock
what.
Cape in your not top 5?
No, I didn't even think about that.
I'm happy I
Uh,
did because I feel like many people have watched Lord of the Rings a few times. They're kind of like that scene, like, ooh,
yeah,
it's like I don't know about that. Anyway, go ahead. What's your not
but I
top
want to
5?
talk about. I want to touch on the whole Faramir scenario you talked about because I actually have a similar thing written down, but like also think about in Faramir's shoes, like these two random dudes. He has no idea. They're a race he's never seen before. They're two little children, 4 foot tall, maybe, come up with the most powerful ring of all time, and he's supposed to be like, oh yeah, y'all go ahead into Mordor and destroy that ring. And he has instead of him like, oh, I could take this ring, take it to Gondor. Like he wasn't there.
I know.
He wasn't there with the Fellowship. He doesn't understand the scope. But actually, in the books, Faramir was very, very knowledgeable. He actually has somewhat of the same bloodline as Aragorn. That's kind of he's the opposite of Boromir, where he doesn't want the power. He wants to step back. He's very, very smart. Him and Gandalf were actually really good friends. They talked a lot, so he had he's actually almost, I want to say, had a hunch before Gandalf did about the ring, because if you actually watch the movies and read the books, Gandalf had no idea about the ring. It was hidden in Gondor lore, and Faramir, just being someone of Minas Tirith, a man of Minas Tirith, a Gondorian, I guess, I forget what they're called. He kind of figured out before everybody, so he had a hunch.
I think it's so sick that like Gandalf, he's like, what is this? Whenever the first movie, he's like, what is this? He knows it's like something important.
Yeah.
So like he can't, like he doesn't just like figure out all of a sudden. Like they show him, he goes and he literally studies up on.
You know how long he was gone?
17 years.
Yeah, he's gone. People think he was gone for like a year, and he comes back. No, dude, he was gone for so long. Like Frodo had almost forgotten about the ring.
He had gone for like 17 years, and then he had like studied it. Basically, went to school to like, not really, but he went to like study. I don't know about in the books because it's been a long time since I've read Fellowship of the Ring, but he was gone for 17 years.
Yeah.
So
that happens a lot with Gandalf. He's having to do so much. He just disappears for a while, and he's like, "I'll be back," and he comes back. And he had to like go on some mission.
Okay, can I say one more thing about Gandalf?
Yeah.
Is about his character?
No, because we're doing a top 5 character thing.
Okay. Well, it's not. Never mind. It's not my top 5. I was just going to explain his role in like a different role that people might. It's easy to pick up on, but it's
what
he is like. All right, so like any question that you might have about something in Lord of the Rings, you have to kind of turn it up because some of the dialogue is kind of hard to understand at times. But he basically explains like everything you hear in Lord of the Rings explained through him or Galadriel, who narrates. If you don't listen to the first part of the first movie, you never watch Lord of the Rings, you're not gonna know what's going on. But Gandalf's like, what is this? And Gandalf's always like, oh, that's and
it's really hard. I mean, Peter Jackson did a good job of like explaining everything, but
oh my god, dude,
it's so crazy. Hard to explain like the world of Middle Earth and how complex it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get into my not top 5. Okay. Number 5 is Pippin in Moria. He pisses me off. I love Pippin as a character. Peregrine Took I love him, but like he's just and I guess without him, like the chain of events wouldn't have happened a lot of the times. But
Gandalf wouldn't be Gandalf the White without him, dude.
Yeah. But still, he just pisses me off. He's just so clumsy, and he does everything he's not supposed to do. I guess I could honestly switch that out with Pippin. When they're in Isengard, he picks up the seeing ball or whatever. I forget they're called.
They're called Palantirs.
Yeah, Palantirs. And so he picks that up, but again, without him doing that, Aragorn and Gandalf wouldn't. Aragorn grabs it. Honestly, okay, I'm going to say one more thing in the books. Aragorn actually uses that Palantir and tricks Sauron. And that's the reason why he's able to like get a leg up on Sauron. It's pretty sick. That's 5. Then I would say 4 is similar to what you said, but it's the scene when Smeagol is in the Forbidden Pool. Like finally Smeagol like seems to have gotten rid of Gollum, and he's kind of becoming Smeagol again. He's in the Forbidden Pool. He trusts Frodo. Probably doesn't trust Sam, but he's like, oh, that's my master. if you remember the scene where he's like, "Go away and never come back," and then the voice goes away.
Yeah.
So he's just in the forbidden pool, killing a fish, and you're like, man. So then Faramir comes up and essentially, or no, Frodo comes up, it's like, hey, trust me, Smeagol, trust me. And then right when he says trust me, Smeagol does trust him. He comes up and gets snatched up, and then the rest of the story.
Yeah.
That pisses me off. I kind of like feel bad for Smeagol because I feel like he actually could have. There was some hope for him. And number 3 is Bilbo when he goes after Frodo.
Dude, so scary.
Dude,
Oh,
that's freaked
man.
me out when he goes after Frodo and he's like, "Let me see the ring one last time," and he kind of like his face becomes like demonic. I always thought that scene was scary.
That scares me. It doesn't really scare me now,
Yeah,
but it is like dude, it scared me when I was a kid, like,
it's
bad.
unsettling the first time you watch it. I
Yeah.
mean, because you get this sweet old man talking to his favorite nephew, and yeah. And then number 2 is just kind of a broad thing, but it's just Gollum. Gollum just pisses me off so much. I mean, there's some scenes where I think he's funny, but it's more so when he becomes Smeagol, not when he's Gollum. Pisses me off. I kind of want the scene to end, honestly.
That's after watching it a lot, like,
Yeah.
'cause
But I mean, yeah, because the
it's not the same
performance
'cause you haven't watched it a lot.
Andy Serkis did, like, groundbreaking performance. I thought it was amazing, but still, it's just after a while you get tired of hearing his voice. And anyways, that's number 2. Now, number 1 is the mouth of Sauron. I think the character was really well done, and the CGI kind of still holds up a little bit if you actually watch the extended cut version. But he pisses me off so bad, and I love, like, that's so satisfactory when Aragorn comes up and just cuts his head off and says he's lying. I don't believe him. So
What
that's
did
my
he
top
say? What
5.
does the Meth Sauron say? He says, like, they have them or something, like.
Yeah, he had the mithril vest. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
And he holds
yeah.
it up. He's like, yeah, we have your friends. But Aragorn pretty much calls him on his bullshit. He's like, if you would have had him, y'all would have destroyed us by now. We would know. Sauron would be out there.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I forgot. I haven't watched that scene in a long time. Aragorn's so sick.
Yeah. Did he just walks up and just cuts his head off. He's like, and then Bilbo's, or not Bilbo, who was it? Gimli. Gimli goes, I guess that's the end of negotiations. And then they just walk back.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that was a not top 5. Let's do top 5 characters.
Okay. I'm gonna
You
go
go first.
faster through these. We don't have to explain these.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are just,
My top 5 characters. Number 5, Sam.
he's
Number
got to be up
4,
there.
just number 4. I've always liked this character, even though, like, you don't really see. He doesn't show that much, like, emotion, or he does, but he doesn't. Number 4 is Gimli.
Yeah.
3, Legolas, or Legolas, if you want to say it like that. 2 is Aragorn, and 1 is Gandalf.
Yeah. That's fair.
Gandalf. The reason I like Gandalf so much is, one, dude, I think, like, the whole wizard vibe thing, and, like, the cloak and the
So
hat.
sick.
And, like, if you played, like, RuneScape back in the day, like, you look similar in RuneScape. It's just, like, so, I don't know. I just like the wizard vibe, like the whole outfit and, like, the staff and, like, his transformation into, like, a super duper powerful.
There's something mysterious about it too. It's like you don't know much about him. You don't know much about his race, but you think that with him on your side, there's just no way you can lose.
He's also very comforting. Like, when he's on,
he has the most sick lines in the movie too, dude. Like, he talks about heaven. He's like, when Pippin's like, "Is this the end?" He's like, "The end." Like, that's my favorite line of the movie, where he's like, "Oh, this isn't the end. This is just the beginning." And he talks about death, or how he sees death.
Yeah,
it's so sick.
Yeah,
and he's like,
Gandalf's awesome.
He's like, Gandalf, is there hope? He's like, there's never not much hope, just only a fool's hope. And he's talking to Pippin. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
My top 5 is a little bit different than yours. I'm gonna say something that's gonna throw people off, but my number 5 is Sauron. The reason I say Sauron is because he's one of the coolest villains to me that's really never shown. Like, and the fact that he's not shown kind of makes him this untouchable character. Like he's more so like a not even a character. He's just a sentiment. Like he's literally embodies evil. He's kind of like the devil. I think he's a really really cool character. Number 4, Faramir. And the reason I say Faramir is kind of because I read the books. If you read the books, you'll understand. Faramir is such a cool character. Doesn't want anything for himself. He's kind of like Aragorn. He just wants to save the realm of men. 3, Samwise. Without Samwise, none of that, nothing would have gotten accomplished almost. Number 2 is Gandalf, for obvious reasons, what we just talked about. And number 1 is Aragorn. Everybody knows, if you know me, Aragorn is the most badass character in any movie, to me, of all time. And the funny thing about Aragorn is, and this could have very well been not have been Aragorn if things were different. When they were casting, they almost cast Nicolas Cage to be Aragorn. And no shade on Nicolas Cage, but that would have been the biggest mistake of all time. Viggo Mortensen killed this role. Any role that Viggo Mortensen takes on, he truly embodies that role.
Yeah,
this kind of leads into the last topic.
Actor.
The last, because he doesn't care about accolades. He doesn't care about all that. He's very down to earth. But I want to talk about characters and casting, and then we'll probably close out this podcast. But Viggo, there's a couple things. Hey, did you know that Viggo broke his toe when he?
Yes.
No, so 2 things about Viggo. So he was working with the swordsman, or the what's it called? Whoever's teaching him the fight choreographer, who's actually like a legit, I think he is a legit fencer, as a swordsman, said that Viggo was the greatest swordsman he's ever worked with.
Like an actor.
And he picked it up pretty quickly because he was like casted late. Like he got casted late. He was like reading a book on the plane to go to New Zealand. And they said Viggo would just like do his lines and like get his part over, and he would just be off fishing. Like he would just go off on set and find a lake and fish. He actually bought the horse that he rode the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think he bought a few more horses from that set. He's a big horse guy. If you've ever seen Hidalgo, you'd understand. I think he's actually legit a good horse.
I forgot about that movie, man. I need to watch that.
There's another thing I wanted to talk about Viggo about. Have you seen the scene of Viggo when he goes around and it's all the, I guess they're New Zealanders, or they're doing that, like, I forgot what it's called, that chant.
Haka dance?
Yeah, something like that, that chant or whatever. And he watches them, they all do the chant for Viggo, because I think he got so immersed in the culture there. And then he goes around and he gives headbutts to every single person, 50 of them. He said afterwards his head was like swollen, bleeding everywhere. But he said he did it to one guy. He's like, I had to do it to all of them. There's just so many stories about Viggo that kind of like embody who Aragorn was. I think that's why he killed that role so much.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he's probably one of the more underrated actors. So that's probably like a choice. He could have probably taken on roles that would have gotten him more status, but he doesn't like it. He just does what he wants to do. So that's kind of like he's definitely one of the best roles in the movie as far as like how he plays Aragorn. And
who do you think was casted the best?
Aragorn, Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn, because like and Gandalf.
Yeah, I think Ian. He was. I would say that, and Saruman.
Yeah, Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee's so badass, dude. He's
he
badass.
He fought in the war, World War II, and yeah, he's.
You know another thing about Christopher Lee?
What?
There's a few things about Christopher Lee. Like if you read up on him and how badass he was, the James Bond character is almost like based off of who he was. Christopher Lee is like a world like I think he's a world champion fencer. Like he knows he's really good with. I guess he's a really good swordsman too, but you don't really even see him fight in the movie. And he also was like supposed to marry like a legit princess, and he turned it down. He's like, "No, I don't want to marry her." Just crazy shit like that. And did you hear about that story when they're actually filming? He wanted to play Gandalf. Like he read the books. He was obsessed. He reads, or he read, R.I.P. He read the Lord of the Rings books every year, and he was so enamored by Gandalf. He tried his best to get cast for Gandalf, and then they're like, "No, I think you'd be perfect for Saruman." He's like, "No, the only way I'm going to be in this movie is if I play Gandalf." And eventually, obviously, they got him to play Saruman.
Which is, I think
it was right. Yeah, because his voice,
right.
I don't know if he could have passed as like that more understanding wizard who's I don't know. I just don't think he could have passed that. But also, there's a scene where someone dies. I don't know if it was he who died, but it was behind the scenes stuff. And Peter Jackson was like trying to tell someone how it sounded. Like, "Hey, no, this is how you need to sound when you die." And Christopher Lee was on set, and Christopher Lee comes up to him. He's like, "Peter, that is not how someone sounds when they die." And he's like, "Oh,
yeah, because he knows, man. He's
yeah.
seen it. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, he told him how to get, like when they get stabbed. That's what it
Yeah.
was.
Yep.
He's like, they make a certain noise. Yeah, I think he talked about that. They did like on set interviews and for press, and he talks about that. But
I think
yeah,
with every character though, like they casted, I wouldn't say any of them were a bad job of casting.
No, not really. I wouldn't say so.
Like they did such a good job of casting the hobbits. I mean, Legolas. Yeah, I just don't. I don't think that you could have done anything differently.
I know. They're our favorite movies for a reason.
Yeah, and we touch on everything, but we could honestly, I could talk about this for another couple of hours and just keep talking about it.
We had to start our first podcast talking about Lord of the Rings.
It was only right. It was the only right because we've discussed it a lot. This is something we share together. Now, as we go on with the podcast, I think we'll have a lot of differing opinions on some films, but we have the same taste, and we're going to get have guests on, and we probably have another guy come on. One of my buddies come on regularly too. He's going to be part of the podcast, but we wanted to start off the first one, the pilot episode, with just us two. BroShoot, two bros. Wells came up with that name, BroShoot. And he's like, "Oh, it's cool. Like, look at the abbreviation. If you look at the B, the S, it's just BS for short." And he's like, "Oh, we're just BS." And I was like, "That's cool." There's a couple little things hidden within. You know, it's a bro shoot. We're just shooting the shit. But it's also, hey, film.
Yeah,
shoot.
like a shoot. Like a film.
I mean,
yeah.
Dude,
I mean, you're welcome for that.
How genius, dude. How genius can you be, man?
I'm gonna come up with names, man.
Actually, yeah, he's come up with like almost all the names that we've. I'm not good at stuff like that. I'm creative, but when it has to be visual creative, I'm not very. I can't come up with names like that.
Yeah, well, you're welcome.
But anyways, we're gonna try. Okay, so if you're still listening, we're gonna try and do these podcasts once. We're not gonna try. We're gonna do these podcasts once a week. We're gonna film on Mondays, post on Wednesdays. Follow us on BroShoot. Follow the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. TikTok. What else are we going to post it on? Are we going to be on? We're going to be on all streaming platforms.
YouTube, TikTok, Instagram.
Well, I mean, like, no, I'm talking about like, where can they listen to us besides those?
Spotify.
What about Apple?
We can do Apple too.
Yeah, dude, we need to put it on. We're going to put it on everything. We're sitting here talking about Lord. This is our first podcast, guys, so just bear with us. But anyways, we're going to close out. Appreciate y'all listening to us, and peace.
Peace.